So today I have the pleasure of welcoming Monica Retamal, social entrepreneur since 2015 and a technology entrepreneur since 1999. Monica is born and based in Chile and currently serves as the executive director of Kodea nonprofit with the mission to digitally empower Latin Americans and champion female digital empowerment. Monica also represents Chile on the APEC Business Advisory Council. Her contributions to the field have earned her numerous accolades, including the Chiletec Women in Technology Award, and she has been honored with the prestigious Women in Tech Lifetime Achievement Award and as an ambassador for the Chile Brand. What stood out to me is Monica's vision and courage. She saw an opportunity in the US and she didn't hesitate to push herself far beyond her comfort zone. In a country where English is barely spoken, Monica started by learning the language and went on to prepare herself for the new market. Hi, Monica. Welcome to this show.
Hi, Emma. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Awesome. So share with us, how did your early years and upbringing shape the person you've become today?
Wow, I have been thinking a lot in this conversation. Well, I was always the first daughter, the first granddaughter, the youngest in all the classes that I was in the school, and I was always the best student in the course. So I think that I have lots of eyes seeing me. I think that one of the words that define me is I'm very over-adapted. I have to go to a psychoanalysis to understand why so persevering, so focused. And I think when you have so many lights, so many eyes seeing you, some people go against that and some people try to continue, receiving that. But it was a huge conclusion of why I always continue trying to be better, best, and whatever. I think that the other part of my life was that I have a father that was policeman, and I had to move from homes, schools every 2 years and start from the beginning. And I think that I have this resilience, I trust that I'm always going to find new people, new projects, new ideas, and always going to find, some new things to do. And I have a very lovely family. We are very close. My parents always said, maybe we don't have so much money, but we are very happy. And I think that approach, it was always very helpful to me. I think that my father pushed me a lot to have excellence, but not to thinking that approach is going to come with money, and I think that's why I choose to be entrepreneur at the end, and I never was focusing to earn money. I think that is a joke of the entrepreneur. I always was looking for excellence, to have better things, for perseverance. I think it was the final of those things.
So what did that psychoanalysis tell you? How did you process it?
Well, I think the thing that comes with a process like that is that maybe you're not going to change so many things, but at least you're going to understand why you do some things and what the people act in front of you in those ways, And when you can understand that, at least for me, everything changed, When you open the thing that really hurt you and you understand why it hurts you so much, you can accept many things of yourself and it's less painful at the end, One of the things that I understand a lot, it was that this light put me in a very lonely place, and it was very difficult because the people expect that I was the one that has the answer. And I feel that I cannot say, I don't know, or I feel that the people asked to me resolve the things. And it was complicated to me is that sometimes I think that I had to control a lot my feelings, and when you control a lot your feelings, in some point you don't feel.
Very interesting. So let's unpack this and then we'll move to the next question, right? So what I'm hearing is that people expected that Monica will have all the answers.
Yeah.
And there was too much expectation on you.
Yeah,
And therefore, you were not really able to be vulnerable to anybody because you cannot have all the answers.
of course. But you try, and I try a lot. I try so hard. In the same way, I finished very young the school, and I start very young the university. I start my first company when I was 23. Like, I run all my life, and I think that is the same mechanism. That is what I understand when I went to psychoanalysis, I was running all my life.
So how did you make peace with it? Like, I can accept the way I am.
Yeah, I think that the first thing it was when you are over adapted, at some point you really don't understand what you really want. In many times of my life, it was very difficult to answer to me what I want. I was always very focused in what the other wants, what my parents want at the beginning, or my friends want, or my partners want. And I don't feel that sensation that, oh, no, nobody think of me. No, it's a different approach. It's like when I was really in front of me thinking what I want, it was a white page because everything was very interesting to me. But the main question is, what do you want? And it was like, I really don't know.
So you were not a pleaser, but you were not living for yourself, but you were living for others.
Yeah, but it wasn't bad,
Yeah.
because in some point it is very successful. I feel very loved for many people. I have many friends. I have many activities, I have so much interest. But yeah, when I start doing that question very frequently, a lot of things change.
So have you stopped living like that, or is it still the same?
Yeah, I have like an earthquake in my life, Yeah, it was funny because the funny part, it was that everybody support me a lot when I take that huge decision. I get divorced. I move from business to this social impact activities. I change everything, and all that pressure that I feel, it was completely in my mind,
Thank you for sharing all this, Monica. I think it'll resonate with so many people. So I really appreciate it. Let's shift gears and maybe backtrack a little bit, right? So while you talked about entrepreneurship and that's been your calling for many, many years, but then how come journalism to begin with? And did those experiences impact your professional outlook in any way?
I think because my father was journalist. My father was police and journalist. So it was the only career that I really feel close because my mother was obstetric and I hate biology and I hate blood and all that stuff. So I think he was the role models, but I think that part of the problem is that we decide what do we want to study, at least in Latin America, very young. But when I finished, I started working in the most important newspaper in Chile, called El Mercurio. I was in the most important part of the newspaper, that was the Sunday interviews. But suddenly I understand that I couldn't see my life doing that all the time, I wanted much more deep things and it never comes deep, You were always running against the time and the other point. I really received very bad salary and I didn't have any projection to have better income. So I started doing different jobs. And in some point, very big digital company hired me to make the context of their website. And when I finished that work, the marketing and sales guy of that company asked me to join to the company working in sales. And I said, but I don't know nothing about sales. No, you are very good on sales. Okay. How much money are you going to pay? Well, he gave me a number that it was the salary of 1 year in journalism. So very fast, I quit my previous job and I started working in this company. And I do that job for 2 years. But in that moment, I realized how the companies work. And I realized that I never going to be successful because I didn't study, I don't know, business or something like that. So I decided to create my own company. And in that moment, I have a friend that was starting with a internet website company. And I said, well, let's join, let's start together. And it was a very good momentum to start because it was the .com explosion and it was a very crazy growth. And I was there to see it.
And clearly, entrepreneurship probably was the calling. Let's talk about that then.
Actually, the entrepreneurship was for me the way to be independent. I'm really independent in the way that I approach the thing all my life, you know. I always had a lot of freedom in taking decisions. And when I had these 2 years of to be an employee, I hate to receive orders. So the thing that moved me to be independent and to have a company and to be entrepreneur, it was the truly need to do whatever I want to do in my way, you know.
Interesting.
I always wanted to be a mother, you know, and to have a family. And when I thought my partners, the other workers when in that company, they were so stressful, you know, asking, can I go to the school of my kid? And the boss said, but it's not a good idea. And I always thought, that is crazy. So I always thought that if I was going to be independent, I have the plenty time to do in the time that I wanted the things, you know. Actually, it was like that. That was the good part. The other part is that you don't have so much time to sleep, isn't it?
That is true. Because then you're driven by passion. You're not driven by bosses and orders.
Exactly. I started from scratch. And I didn't receive any salary for many years, you know. I received, but it was very few money. And in that momentum, I remember that everybody was receiving good salaries. I was just doing this passion thing that you are describing. Today, I saw so many entrepreneurs that they open their company receiving capital. And it's so different approach. So I think that I had this stoic approach that I think that we really need to suffer a little bit to really go deeply of the problems.
Let's talk about how you launch your entrepreneurial journey. You know, you said you sort of found somebody and you both did it together, right?
Yeah. We start together. We were friends, actually. And the beginning, it was crazy because 1 year after we were 20 and the other year, it was a crazy travel. And I think he worked with plants. He was an expert in technology, the same to me. So in some point, we really start working with very software-oriented people and very technical people, and it was very complicated to manage. And then we really have very good clients, but we didn't know nothing about how to have a very process approach, you know? So what it was, we start growing and we didn't have any plan and we didn't have any strategy. So we have a middle-sized company, but it was very tough to continue for us because we start fighting a lot as a partner, you know? Why you are not doing this? Because of expectation and many other things. But in some point, we realized that we need help. And we decided to hire an advisor. Mm-hmm. And the advisor said things that are very obvious. But for us, it wasn't obvious. He said, first, you need a strategy. Second, you need a general manager. Third, you need to separate roles, you know, very obvious thing. So when we finished that process of consulting, my partner said, I don't want to be the general manager. I really want to go to my beach house. You know, I really want another approach of life. It was heavy. And the guy that made the consulting, the advisor guy said, you have a wonderful company, actually. You have very good brands. You know a lot of this field. I would like to be the guy to put the strategy and to be the general manager. And why don't we start together? And in 4 months, I have 2 new partners.
Wow.
And it was a terrible change for me. Deep, deep, deep knowledge, but very painful. You start with 2 new partners that actually were from other country. They were from Argentina with other culture. And I feel very, very weird with my company, with new people, a different process. But these new partners give us a strategy and a focus. And part of the idea was, okay, we need to go to other countries. We need to grow in other places. And they say the States can be the new country. And it was funny because my partner said, well, you speak English. No, I don't speak English. So we decided that I was the one who has to go to New York once in a month, sleep in a coach of a friend that used to live there and try to open that market. And that was very crazy. And I started doing that for 2 years. And I think that it was the most complicated part of my career in a new country, trying to sell Chile, that in that moment I had to travel with a map because many people said, Mexico? No, I said to the south, very to the south, But after 1 year, we start really creating value with those new clients. We learn a lot of how to work with international clients, with American clients. And 2 years after that, an American guy came to our office in Santiago and said, I'm looking for a company that works with the American customer because I want to do a joint venture. And that is the completely other part of my life. We create a new company together with this American company. And that new entrepreneurship in 2 months was more big than all the things that I used to have before. And in that momentum, I feel tired for the first time in my life.
I can only imagine, Monica, what a treadmill you're on, right? So I want to break this up a little bit. So, Monica, looks like all the different partners which came in your life, none of them were Chilean, right?
The previous one, the first one.
First one.
My first partner, Andres, was Chilean. Then Argentinian, then it is Pakistani American.
So how did you find those people? Did you always sort of recognize that you want somebody, given that, you didn't have that much of business experience?
Wow, difficult question. Only thing that it happens in my life appear. I think that I'm very good to take advantage of the things that appear, that is my approach. It could be, I don't know, maybe a beauty salon or whatever, My approach was I want to be independent. And this friend appeared with this idea to create this technology company and said, okay. And I know about that because I'm working in technology. So we fit, I'm more the one that take opportunities that instead of try to think very deeply,
But intuitively, do you think there was something which you looked for in whoever you work with?
Yeah, values. You can always have different ways to do and whatever, but if you don't share values, it's very complicated to sustain a relationship. And actually, when I create my first company, I never thought the papers like deeply, But when you have problems, everybody goes and see where are the papers signed, So it's pretty different to think a lot what is going to happen when you have problems.
So what are those common values you look for in somebody you work with?
I think that a kind of integrity, I really need people that believe that the thing has to be in a high standard. I always have been working in services at the end, so I'm very focused in all the details. I'm very focused in the way that, I don't know, the secretary answers the phone and the way that you treat your clients. And I think if your partner doesn't care, it's very complicated. Another thing that is very important is the strategy. I always have been partners that think in the future, except the first one, but because we were very young and we really don't know. I think all my new partners always are thinking in what is going to happen in the next 5 years, The other important thing is that I cannot work in a place where I feel attacked or when I feel tense. I'm very bad to don't face the conflict.
Yeah.
If I feel that it's something tense, I always go and try to resolve it. But I need to do the things. I need to feel that I'm in a very safe place.
Very beautiful. Any anecdotes come to your mind when you sort of address the conflict?
I'm very good in communications, of course, because I started journalism. You asked me what of the thing that I really can say about that, it is that. But I'm always try and I do a very heavy effort to say the truth. And I think when you are in business, people don't say the truth. They try to, decorate the things. And I'm always the one that, hey guys, what are we talking? Let's start again. Let's describe what is happening here. And when you do that kind of exercise, the people really feel like nude, But at the same time, when you put that point of view and you try that the people reflect really deeply, people really feel much more close, connect, human connect. I never forgot that I'm working with people. Actually, when I used to travel to the States, I used to have a very bad English. Now I don't have so much good English, but in that moment was very bad. And when the people ask me, how are you? I always start saying very nervous.
So sweet, yeah.
And the people in that moment always connect with that,
Yeah.
And I think I have always friends because of that, The people really feel like homey when you are trying to show your problems, your fragility. Sometimes I have been traveling with the president of Chile, for example. And the president of Chile invited me, for example, to talk in the last year in a plane. It was very funny. He asked me, what do you want to talk? And I said, maybe we can listen to some music. I really I want to relax myself. And we have a completely different conversation, And I think that approach, it helped me a lot in the entrepreneur approach.
What I admire the most about you and your journey is, this move to New York.
Yeah. I don't know if there is a place more complicated.
Talk to us about that. How did you prepare for it? How did you psych yourself up?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting because, of course, the first thing in New York, if someone receives you half an hour, it's a lot of time.
No doubt.
Here, the meetings are like 2 hours, The other thing is we used to hire a sales manager that lived in New York, and he was the classic junkie, We have meetings from 9 a.m. to, 5 every 30 minutes. So it was crazy for me, I used to memorize the speech. It was very complicated. And when you have language issues, it's not so easy. But the thing that I understand very fast, it was that I don't have to feel bad if it doesn't happen with someone, because part of the good thing of the American market is that if they don't need it, they are going to say no. We don't have any opportunity to do in business. Here in Latin America, nobody says something like that.
Yeah.
They says, oh, maybe you have to change this, come with another altar, and you lose a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say yes, the other good thing for me, they don't start thinking, okay, we need to sign this contract and whatever. Latin America, after you say yes, you start with lawyers, In the United States, they say, okay, let's start next week. And for me, it was very shocking to say, okay, but you are not going to send me any papers and whatever. No, we're just going to start. But if it doesn't work, of course, maybe you are going to talk with my lawyer. And that approach, it was very indicator of how the culture works there. I think that the most powerful knowledge of that moment of my life, it was that all the limits that I have, it was in my mind. A girl in Santiago de Chile, very far of everything. I didn't start business. I have a father that is a policeman. And now here I am selling in New York. When I thought in that moment, I think that changed everything,
What do you think was the most challenging part?
All this, it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I missed a lot of present moment. Part of the thing that I'm finding in my life is connection. Try to be in the moment. That's why I practice yoga and I read a lot. I had to find another ways to be present because it's very easy to lose the moments because you're thinking in the future. And I think that all the people that has companies suffer because of that, And the other thing that appeared a lot in my therapy, sometimes you are running the career with many people, you see, yes, we are a team. And in some moment, lots of time, I stop, see around, and I completely lonely, and I said, where is everybody? And they are in the beach, enjoying a lot. And you are the only one that you are missed all the party, That is something very heavy to deal.
Do you think you're an aberration or not the traditional Latino, like the stereotype one would imagine?
Yeah, I'm not the traditional Latino.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to enjoy, I have to have the enjoy in my agenda. And the Latin American culture is not like that.
Totally, yeah. That's the stereotype which I have in my mind, right? More fun-loving, music,
Yeah,
food.
yeah. I'm very, very focused. I have hyper-focus. That is a condition.
And so many times I heard the word loneliness. And I'm wondering, you were coming from a culture which was so relaxed. And here you were this hyperachiever who had a long-term strategy, long-term goals. So there must have been, I would imagine, naysayers in this journey, right? Which sort of, lack of a better word, pulled you down or, sort of thought, what's wrong with this woman? Like, why is she doing this?
Yeah, many times. Actually, I think that part of my divorce, it was because of that. In some point, my ex-husband said, why you need more? We are okay. And the point is that more for me is not more money, And today is because I create this NGO is more purpose, is more social impact. And it's very complicated to me to respond that. Why more? And yes, it's lonely in some part because I feel strange many times in my life, like saying, where is the group of people that really think like me? And I joined to a book club. People that read together different books. And in that moment, when I find a group of people really close to me, and it was fantastic. And now, I don't know if it happens to you, but today we really have more group of women and you can feel the same approach. and you feel less lonely. But it's not lonely because the people don't love you. It's lonely because you don't feel like you are in the same mindset. And we need that as a human being, isn't it?
Absolutely. You basically found your own tribe, people you could relate to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Monica, I want to unpack the loneliness from a different perspective. During your work life, which was so hectic and you were on this treadmill, right? Were there any mentors? Because I think that's the time you obviously needed perspective. You needed somebody to keep you going. Who gave you that strength or that energy?
I didn't have any mentor, and I really would like to have now, because if I would have it, lot of painful moments, lot of knowledge, it was going to come faster. I think that I learned from all my errors, and I do very stupid things.
So then let's talk about that.
I think the first stupid thing is that I never was interested in numbers, and because I didn't study that, so I can sell a lot, but I never look what was the profitability. When I have to make advisor to other entrepreneurs, I said, who is looking all the time numbers? And most of the time they say, no, we are very small. And I say, no, that's a problem. If you really want a business, you should very focus in numbers. And if you want to be a data-driven company, much more, So I think that was a very deep knowledge of all my errors. The other thing that I think that was an error, it was the approach, I think, with my partners, actually. I think that with my first partner, that the relationship ends in a very complicated way. I think that we should ask for help in another momentum, know when the crisis comes. We should look for strategies and to think about the future earlier. Everything was a mess, and that was very costly, because when you feel that you are going to lose everything, you take any alternative.
Such an important piece of advice, yeah. So when did the awareness about knowing more about numbers come?
Actually, my two new partners in that moment were 30 more years than me. So they give us a lot of process, a lot of strategy, and a lot to focus in numbers to evaluate everything and whatever. And the other very interesting plan was to have a plan, a big plan, something that really huge goal that mobilized a lot.
And did you also train yourself into finance?
Yeah, I had to study, actually. I had to study accountancy, start measuring things. And I have to say another thing. I'm very disciplined. And if I buy that idea, I'm not only start doing, it's part of my discipline. And that approach, all the things that I have been learning deeply are part of my discipline. So today, I cannot do nothing with that numbers, with that measure. I'm extreme in that. But for me to have that approach, make the things much more fast. My first company took 7 years into having a strategy. The second one took 2 years. Kodea started with a strategy,
Yeah.
And I took many years into understand how to measure something. And now I really know how to don't measure something,
Very interesting. Yeah. So, Monica, obviously, this conversation will be incomplete without your new passion, right? So, tell us about the transition from the technology entrepreneurship to starting and leading Kodea.
Remember that I told you that the last entrepreneurship was a big company from the beginning, because we sell services to the States, to big companies in West Coast. And that was very amazing. But two things happened to me. First, I hate to sign papers until don't be in the business. It was so big company that I wasn't part of the day by day because I was in the heaven, in the strategy, and I start feeling very boring. I start thinking, this is not something that I can do all my life. And I think that I'm not very good for politics issues in big companies, I hate that. And I start thinking for first time, I need to do something completely different. And I start talking with my partner saying, maybe I need to do something different. And something different came to me in the way of social impact. So I convinced myself that I had to create an NGO. And I just said, what can be my contribution to that? In 2015, companies were starting the transformation, They really don't understand that transformation was something more related with culture than something related with technical issues, So I thought maybe I have to start working, teaching or trying to democratize this knowledge because I used to feel that the people feel scared with technology and women in particular, they really don't want to know nothing about it. Who knows? Please call the IT guy. So I start thinking about that and I decide finally to create this NGO that has 3 big chapters. One is education. The goal is to bring computer science to the schools in Chile. Second is an NGO focusing upskilling, reskilling of people to prepare them to work in digital field. And the third is more related in how democracy and digital are connected. So I create this NGO that was my retire plan. And it doesn't come like that.
Not at all.
It doesn't come like a retired plan.
Given my affiliation for the not-for-profit world, we always tell people saying, don't think this is your retirement plan because you're going to land up working way more than you work in the corporate world or the business world. So I totally get what. This has been so lovely, Monica. Looking back on your amazing journey thus far, what advice would you give your younger self?
I think that today, young people want everything so fast, and they forgot to enjoy the trip. And today that I create this new organization called Kodea, I'm very focused into create the best team that I can create, to have the best environment that I can give them. And I think that never the money that you invest in culture, in people actually, is going to be waste money.
Beautiful. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed a lot the conversation too.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, do hang on for just 1 more minute. I have a request for you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Atlanta Diaries on Spotify, iTunes, or whichever platform you follow. Do join us in our mission to empower and inspire by sharing the podcast with a friend or colleague. It will be great if you can share on the social media platforms you follow, be it LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or any other. Please leave a review or rating on iTunes or Spotify. It really helps us reach a wider audience. Lastly, I wanted to share with you that many of my coaching clients and listeners have created a cheat sheet with their key takeaways from the episodes. I invite you to consider jotting down 1 or 2 key takeaways as you navigate your amazing journey. Have a wonderful rest of the day and see you next week for another inspiring journey on Atlanta Diaries.